Welcome to episode number 374 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on March 26, 2022. A lot of things to talk about this week, including Ukraine NFTs, Arnold's conversational receptiveness, video essays, Sting's hiring chain, Burger King's poopy ice cream, goodbye Google Analytics, a TikTok takedown, and stick around for some stats on reasons people have for buying sustainable. But we kick off with the best story of the week, and BL's always got that honor. BL, what do you got?
Well, this is kind of a sad best story, but on Friday, Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Information launched the Ukraine NFT Museum of War. It's a crypto crowdfunding push, and this is from Reuters, from Elizabeth Hocroft and Tom Wilson. And we all want to know, is there something we can do? And this is a new way. Ukraine started a collection. They started auctioning off a collection of non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and they're expanding their cryptocurrency fundraising push that Kyiv says has already collected more than $65 million for the war effort. The Meta History Museum of War is a series of digital images, and they include silhouettes of warplanes, screen grabs of news reports, a cartoon-style image of an explosion. Each one marks a different day in the war, and the series was meant to spread truthful information among the digital community in the world and to collect donations for the support of Ukraine, according to a message on the collection's website, which I linked to. And Ukraine uses crypto to buy supplies for its military, including bulletproof vests, helmets, lunches, medicines. The deputy minister of digital transformation, whose name I'm sure I'll butcher here, Alex Bornyakov, said on Twitter that Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Information started appealing for donations in digital tokens such as Bitcoin and Ether 3 days after Russia launched its war. The Twitter account explains, your purchase from Meta History Museum of War is 100% good and secure deal because we use a smart contract agreement that sends money directly to Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation wallets to support Ukraine. So just if you don't know, a smart contract is written on the blockchain, and it keeps track of everything that is done with the cryptocurrency. And the myth that crypto is not trackable, the myth that it's you can't use it for anything, those are myths. This is real. They need this money. They need this help. So I just want to add that a lot of really deep conversation takes place 24/7 on Twitter Spaces. And I regularly listen to the Walter Report, and I highly recommend it for news because they generally break news because they're on the ground in Ukraine and all over the world. And they generally are at least an hour ahead of mainstream media, and the space is recorded. So if you miss it, you can listen after the fact. But it's a remarkable resource. And the other night they had a general who was a former chief of staff in the White House, and he was in between interviews with mainstream media, and he came and he answered questions, and it's a fascinating space. I learn from it every day, so I recommend it.
Speaking of Ukraine, everybody has by now probably seen Arnold Schwarzenegger's video to the Russian people, telling them what's going on in Ukraine that they're not getting from their own government because they've shut down, Putin has shut down independent media. And it was a remarkable piece of video where Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has a huge following in Russia, was talking at first he started talking about how much he loved Russia. That when, as a boy growing up, one of his heroes was a Russian weightlifter who he had a poster of in his room. And then he went on to do bodybuilding competitions in Russia, where he met Russian fans. He filmed a movie in Red Square. He has lots of Russian friends. As I said, the video had Russian subtitles too, so it was translated into Russian. He released it on Twitter. It has, to this day, it has 36 million views on Twitter alone. But he also released it in other channels, as well as like Telegram, which is popular, and Russian social media. So you got to think that it got through to some people at least. He also acknowledged that nobody wants to hear the criticism of their own government, but they went on to tell Russian people in this, like, I don't know, 7-minute long video, the truth of what was going on, what their country was doing, their army was doing in Ukraine. I saw an interview with a woman named Julia Minson, who's a Harvard professor, commenting on Schwarzenegger's video and why it was effective. And she mentioned this term, conversational receptiveness. And I was fascinated with that, so I did some research. She at Harvard has done some research on this concept of conversational receptiveness, which is the use of language to communicate one's willingness to thoughtfully engage with opposing views. A lot of the work I do is in public affairs, and we're trying to figure out, how do you get messages to somebody who's got a polar opposite view of the world than you, and how do you communicate? So this obviously was something that I'd be interested in. She and her team developed a machine learning algorithm to identify the linguistic profile of receptiveness. And then they in conscientious policy discussions among like government executives, they rated who were receptive and considered better teammates, advisors, and workplace representatives. And then they showed that conversational receptiveness at the beginning of a conversation forestalls conflict escalation at the end of conversation. So they used Wikipedia data, where Wikipedia editors who write more receptive posts are less prone to receiving personal attacks from disagreeing editors. They developed a receptiveness recipe intervention. And for writers who followed this recipe, they were seen as more desirable partners for future collaboration, and their messages were seen as more persuasive. So some of the features of receptive language, positive ones, impersonal pronouns, acknowledgement. So I understand, I hear what you're saying is, a phrase that would be an acknowledgement, receptive kind of language. Hedges, where you're not black and white, you're saying probably and possibly, and you're hedging your language a little bit. So you're showing flexibility in your position, right? Positive emotions, agreement, finding areas where you agree with the person who has opposing view. And then there's actually a fascinating webinar that we'll put in the show notes of this professor discussing her research and how it works. But I was like, I am devouring this, because this is the kind of stuff in social media where you have comments. As a moderator, as a manager of a social media community, how do you keep something from escalating? You can use some of these insights, this type of language, to better manage your community. That's just one example.
I love that. I find, like, help me understand.
Yeah.
I see your point of view, but I look at it differently.
Yeah.
Have you considered, those kinds of things? I mean, you want to first say, I hear you.
Yeah.
And
She also mentioned in this webinar that women are far more effective at using this kind of language than men, which gets us to the phrase mansplaining.
yeah.
So the people who are seen as least receptive were those who immediately started explaining their position, who, rather than acknowledging, I hear what you're saying.
Those people are hard of
here and
listening, I
there.
like
Yeah,
to say.
there you go. Yeah.
So on another subject, it seems that hour-long videos are really hot now on YouTube, and TikTok is the era that we're in, but the popularity of these hour-long videos, video essays, it speaks to our our desire for more nuanced content. And so this is from a Vox story by Terry Nigan, I think. And YouTube, it's the home of contemporary video essays. It's really quite remarkable because, we're reputed to have the attention span of a goldfish, which is 6 seconds. But since 2012, when they began to prioritize watch time over views, this genre has been flourishing because more people get to see that they exist. But these videos became a significant part of the 2010s in YouTube, and they were popularized by creators in film, politics, and academic subcultures. But today, they're on all kinds of subjects, virtually any topic you can think of. And they range from anywhere from 10 minutes to upward of an hour. And most of them, like most written essays, they expound upon an argument, a hypothesis, or a curiosity that's proposed by the creator. And it's been a means to entertain fan theories, explore the lore of video games, or a historical deep dive. I like those, or explain and critique a social media trend. So the basic premise seems to be that whoever creates these has done their research, and they can explain their sources and refer to them, and kind of like we do here, and also their reactions to them. And the idea is to be less reactionary and to explore the deeper aspects of a topic. So they're not all Hollywood style productions, and by any means, and not all the creators are famous. And it seems to me the pandemic has changed our viewing habits, that we somehow had to develop more patience during the last 2 years because we otherwise would be jumping off a building. So Spotify, as you talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think, Dave, is positioning audio and video podcasts as kind of interchangeable. And it's a more intimate alternative than a pure audio podcast. And so the video essay, it makes use of the key elements that are like kind of a middle ground between a podcast and a traditional video. And the boundaries are not so easy to define. So, I guess we're in style, Dave. We've been doing this for 12 years.
Well, I've always
Yeah,
I've always said that, people say, well, how long should we make our video? I'm like, as long as it needs to be. I mean, it's just, it can be an hour if you have compelling content and compelling delivery, and you can keep somebody's attention for that long. That's on you, So
it's hard though. It's really hard.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, the reason that the algorithms favor shorter videos because there's more ad inventory if you're switching out videos, right? But then YouTube did switch their algorithm to staying on the platform longer, so that switch up of favoring shorter videos didn't matter as much when they started, well, let's just keep people here all the time, right?
Well, for me, it's really got to be compelling for me to be able to listen for more than, it's got to be scintillating for me to listen for more than about 20 minutes. My attention span drops off about then, unless I'm really absorbed in a subject, unless it's something I really want to know more about. But the bottom line is, it seems that people will watch anything that they find interesting. That's the bottom line.
So yeah, you should watch this conversational receptiveness webinar.
I'm going to watch that. I can't wait.
It's an hour long.
But that's a subject that I'm deeply interested in, so I can certainly do that.
Yeah. So my next one is wonderful, coming from somebody you might know by the name of Sting, and he released a music video on World Down Syndrome Day. This past week, I think. Yep. And the song is titled "The Hiring Chain," and the description in the YouTube video for it is: by hiring someone with Down syndrome, you start a virtuous chain. The more people with Down syndrome are seen at work, the more they'll be recognized as valuable employees, and the more they'll be hired. Do your part, start the hiring chain today. The lyrics start out: the baker hired Simone and everyone saw that she could do the job. The lawyer went to the baker and saw Simone at work. The lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The dentist went to the lawyer, and John saw John at work, and it just goes on and on and on, with more people hiring more people because they saw the people at work. It's great.
That is great. I think that equally applies to autistic people.
Yeah.
You know, there are some extraordinary businesses that only have autistic people, and they're running the businesses. And you can't you can't have these stereotypes continue. So that's a wonderful thing that he did.
Yeah.
I wonder if he has a Down syndrome kid.
I
Does
don't
he?
know.
I don't know.
It was shared by a friend of mine, a former colleague who has a daughter who has Down syndrome.
Ah, okay. So I don't have any more good news. Do you?
No, let's go on to the worst.
This is the worst. This is one of those things where I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when they had this meeting and said, what a good idea. So Burger King now has poop emoji ice cream cones. And they added a new item. It's poop ice cream. And the cone is made to look like a smiling pile of poop. Go figure. And they put a little face on it, a little smile. They gave it little glasses. So they allotted budget to this. There's actually an intentional, the idea is to highlight the fact that Burger King no longer puts shit into its products. And they vowed to remove 100% of all artificial ingredients from their sandwiches by 2025. And the marketing director at Burger King Brazil, where this happened, says, our goal was to show in a funny way that our product, no matter how it looks, is the cleanest of all, stated Julia Curry, marketing director at Burger King Brazil. The important thing is what's inside, a tasty ice cream without any artificial ingredients of any kind. Well, thank you very much, but I don't need my ice cream to look like a pile of poop.
I think that's clever. I think that's clever.
That's disgusting.
And I will not be surprised if it's very popular too, because the target audience is not you, BL. It's not me, but it's probably more me than it is you, because that's kind of funny. And I'd buy it. I presume it doesn't taste like shit.
Well, that's their point, but I'm not going to taste it to find out. That's
this
my
one,
bad news of the week, man. I put that in bad news.
This one is bad, but we knew it was coming. I just didn't know it was coming as soon as it's going to come. And this is from Search Engine Journal's Matt Southern, who reports, as many do, that Universal Analytics, Google Universal Analytics, the analytics I've been using since I started using Google's analytics, which is from the outset, basically, is going to stop working. They're going to stop processing new data on July 1st of 2023. I thought there would be a much longer timeline to make the transition, even though it's been out a couple of years. But there's, most, 40, 50, maybe 60% of the people who use it, website analytics, are using Google Analytics. It's a huge number.
What are they transitioning to?
Google Analytics 4. And so they redesigned Google Analytics from the ground up, new code base and everything. It is, they did this because one, the privacy thing, they're relying less on cookie data to collect website behavior stuff. It is cross-platform. Google Analytics 4 is cross-platform, so you can measure web versus app, etc. Universal Analytics 360, the paid version, will be ending on October 1st, 2023. But that means I have to hurry up and learn Google Analytics 4, because I've been putting it off because I don't have any time, and a lot of people are going to be. We all do. Yep. Jeez. The previously processed data from Universal Analytics will remain available for at least 6 months after they stop collecting data. So basically, you have 6 months to take your previous data set from all the website stuff, since forever, and put it somewhere.
So Google. This is so Google.
Yeah, so it's annoying, but I knew it was coming, and I guess I needed a tweak to get off my ass and start learning it. But I would also not be surprised if they extend the timeline, because there will probably be a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, and anyway, I don't always find that they give me what I want. So there's that.
Well, this, I mean, this actually Google Analytics 4 will give you more of, I don't know what you want, but
Day
Google will
parts
give
for
you,
one thing.
oh, you can do that.
You'll have to show me.
Yeah. But it's all event based now. So before Google Analytics and Universal Analytics is hard. You could not always get everything you want just because the model of how they put it together with the. I'm getting in the weeds now, so I'll just shut up.
Well, you have more bad news. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I'll just end by saying there's more advantages to switching over to Google Analytics 4 than holding on for dear life to what's going to be kicked out the door anyway. All right, my next one, TikTok. This is from What's Trending's Savannah Ross, who reports that there's a TikTok user named Hattie Rowe, who was asked by Monat, which is a multi-level marketing company, to take down one of her TikTok videos in which she called the company a pyramid scheme, which it is. They've had lawsuits filed against them for hair loss and scalps that became itchy and bloody, apparently.
Yeah.
The video that was asked to be, that they asked her to take down, had like 6,000 likes. But they mistook her for one of their sellers. And so the message that they sent her was they appreciated, quote, her hard work and enthusiasm in building your business and understand certain policies may be unintentionally overlooked. And then they sent her a quick follow-up with compliance training because she mentioned income in her original video, which was outside of their compliance rules. You're not supposed to mention income. So they sent her a compliance training without actually doing any research. This is like all the horrible PR pitches that we get that are completely, they don't understand who they're talking to.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That wouldn't have been hard to find out, you know, that would have been a quick data search. That wouldn't have taken much.
Yep. All right, so let's go on to, you got another one?
No, I got smiles.
Yeah, smile.
Okay. So, you know, you guys have to trust me. You really just need to call this number that I'm going to put in the show notes. I'm going to call 7 times a day and press the number 4. And then an hour later, I'm going to call again. This is a kindergarten class project in which people give motivational talks. And there's one in which, so anytime you need a pep talk, you just call and you can get it from kindergartners. And number 4 is little kids laughing. There's no better sound in the world. And so this is just wonderful. Do you have any smiles? I got another one.
Don't. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a Washington Post story by Taylor Lorenz, who always writes wonderful stories. And this is about how Ukraine's most famous cat escaped. And I didn't know this. There's an international council of bloggers and influencers. And I've forgotten the cat's name, but when he when he stopped posting on his Instagram, they started worrying about him and her, the owner. And so they tracked them down and they managed to get the 2 of them out of Ukraine. They got them to Paris. They got them a free apartment, and they helped some other people escape as well. It's well worth your time to read because it's absolutely fascinating. You know, everybody wants to know, like, what can we do to help? And they actually did something to help.
So it's appropriate, I suppose, that a influencer cat went to Paris.
I guess so, but he's the cutest. He really is. He's an orange tabby. I love them. So what do you got for shiny objects?
I have 2 things that are quick and they're shiny new stuff from things that you are familiar with already. So Twitter and YouTube. Twitter, we discussed this in a previous episode, was contemplating putting a downvote on conversations, replies to tweets. Well, that is rolling out. I noticed it in the wild. I got a video that shows in the wild. So
I don't have it yet.
Look for that soon to be coming to your comments. And then YouTube Clips is rolling out as well. So YouTube Clips is where you can clip any video, clip a segment. I think it's like a 60-second segment of any video, and have a unique URL for that, so that you can just share that particular clip. So for us, our half-hour long, 45-minute long podcast, we can clip out 60-second sound bite and share it on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and then people can watch the sound bite, but also take the URL, take you back to the original video so you can watch the whole thing.
Easier than making audiograms. Yeah. So this is a new one. There's a Web3 search engine, and you put in your favorite brand and you see what they may be doing in the metaverse. And my favorite brands weren't there, but and the next one I have is that YouTube is offering more than 4,000 TV shows free with advertising. It already has scores of, I think, hundreds of movies that you can watch free with ads. And they're really just trying to get you to want to subscribe, because if the ads annoy the crap out of you, then maybe you'll subscribe. But despite the fact that it pops up every time I go to YouTube, which is often a couple times a day, I haven't looked at it. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, that's the most annoying thing. It's not even the ads, it's the pop-up, subscribe to YouTube TV, subscribe to YouTube TV.
3 months free or whatever, I don't know. And like, leave me alone.
Yep.
Well, that's it.
All right, I have a project here. This is a blog post I wrote on Volodymyr Zelensky's leadership and how he, like, overnight turned the entire free world against Russia and behind Ukraine due to his amazing communication skills. Basically, it argues that he uses the dynamics of storytelling, archetype of characters. So he was a comedian, so he's the clown archetype, who turned into an everyman archetype, who turned into a warrior archetype, who turned into a hero archetype, all throughout the course of the invasion. And the fact that we have that single narrator of that story, Zelensky himself, is powerfully compelling. And then the story itself is the archetypal plot of overcoming the monster, Putin, of course, being the monster. So just fascinating the way that he is really, I mean, they said about Churchill, he marshaled the English language and sent it off to war. And a lot of people rightly have been comparing Zelensky calling Zelensky the Jewish Churchill. So we'll put a link to it in the show notes.
I have to say, Dave, that was an extraordinary essay that you wrote, and I shared it widely, and I think everybody really should read it. You did a phenomenal job. You illustrated it with videos. You had links to, a variety of things that prove the points. And I read an article also about how Zelensky has turned his olive green T-shirt into a fashion item overnight, because it's all we ever see him in. And it's just, he astounds me every time I see him. He's astounding because he knows how to speak to each particular audience.
Yeah, he does.
He knows how to reach them with their talking points. He knows how to get people in the heart every time. I just pray that he stays alive. That's all I can say.
Yeah, there's been much to be horrified by this, but a lot to be inspired by as well.
When you see the way that people talk about their country and how they feel about it, it's just really, I don't know if Americans feel as strongly about their country, or maybe it hasn't been tested, but wow, it's just really remarkable.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I watched Biden's speech today in Poland, and it brought tears to my eyes because we're the good guys again.
I guess. I mean, let's do it now.
All right, so pro tip. Speaking of audiograms, BL, I have a video for how to create basically audiograms, how to create that waveform that scintillates when people talk, reacts to the sound, how to create that in Adobe Premiere Pro. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And then let's wrap this up with some statistics. This is from the Global Web Index, who surveyed 1,800 plus fashion and jewelry buyers across 9 markets who look for sustainable products. And these are the things that they look for. Percentage of fashion and jewelry buyers that look for sustainable products say the following are important to them. Use of natural organic materials, 65% said. Eco-friendly, carbon neutral shipping, 65%. No harmful chemicals used, 64%. Reusability, 57%. Durability, 56%. Use of recycled materials, 55%. Sustainable packaging, 54%. Design attractiveness, 43%. Cost, 40%. Locally sourced, 38%. And fair labor practices rounds out the bottom with only 38%.
It's interesting that it doesn't have to be attractive as much as it has to be sustainable. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So I do know that, for example, Russia has a lot of diamonds. And so the high-end jewelry companies of the world have had to take Russian diamonds out of their shows and their stock. And, you know, I had no idea that they had all those diamonds, but apparently they do.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, that brings us to the end of episode 374 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And if you want to find us, you just search Beyond Social Media Show, or you can tell your smart speaker to play Beyond Social Media Show. And you'll find everything we discussed today, including the videos and links to the original stories at beyondsocialmediashow.com/374. And I'm here with my ever charming co-host, David Erickson. He's D Erickson on Twitter, DE Erickson on Instagram. On YouTube, he's eStrategy, and he blogs at e-strategyblog.com, where you'll find his most recent essay, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. And I'm What's Next on Twitter. I occasionally blog at What's Next blog. You're more likely to find me on Twitter. I'm on YouTube as What's Next blog. My website is blachman.com. The show, again, it's beyondsocialmediashow.com. And on Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. You'll find us anywhere you get your podcasts: Google, Apple, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. And we thank you for watching today.
Thanks for watching.